Commerce and Industry, along with the Aditya Birla CSR Center for Excellence, and partnered by Vodafone, which is the shared value partner, Engineers India Limited, the co-theme partner, the Embassy of the Republic of Korea as the country partner, and supported by the International Labour Organization. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome and also invite on the dais our chief guest, Shri Anurag Thakur, Honorable Member of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a very warm welcome to our chief guest. May I also take this opportunity to invite on the dais our other distinguished dignitaries, His Excellency Mr. Jung Jio Lee, Ambassador of the Republic of Korea and India, Mrs. Rajshri Birla, Chairperson of FICCI CSR and Community Development Committee, Ms. Tina Stymos, Director, International Labour Organization, Mr. Rohit Adya, Director, External Affairs, Vodafone India Limited, Ms. Jyoti Vij, Deputy Secretary General of FICCI, and Dr. K.K. Upadhyay, Head of CSR FICCI. Once again, an extremely warm welcome to you all. May I now request Mrs. Rajshri Birla to kindly welcome our Chief Guest, Honorable Member of Parliament, Shri Anurag Thakur, with a bouquet of flowers. Thank you, Mrs. Birla. In spite of India being a growing economy, it is the 10th largest economy in the world and the 3rd largest by purchasing power parity. However, its growth has been only in certain sectors and benefited only a part of the large section of its population. Even today, many people lack the basic necessities of life. People have to be at the center of development. The strengths and assets of multi-stakeholders are extremely necessary for creating a milieu for economic growth that leads to social, environment, and as well as institutional stability, sustainability. To achieve greater inclusiveness, it will depend on the distribution of income, employment creation, and its gender dimensions, among various other factors. It is important that the Indian industry, which is among the largest in the world and has some of the most advanced plants and technologies available globally, come forward to contribute towards inclusive growth, primarily through CSR projects. Although many business organizations have come forward, there is still much to be done and achieved. Many Indian firms as well as Indian subsidiaries of MNCs are now adopting new business models of CSR that can address environmental and social challenges valuably through their core business. They say that CSR isn't a particular program, it is what we have to do every day, maximizing the positive impact and minimizing the negative impact. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is being held with these certain objectives in mind. The need of the hour is to identify priority areas for collective action and build on current processes. And this conference is going to focus on new innovations in implementing corporate social responsibility at the grassroots levels, as well as better understanding on how to solve both environmental and social challenges through CSR. New ideas and innovations for models and best practices, both through national and international experiences, shall be deliberated upon. With these words, I would like to now request Ms. Jyoti Vij, Deputy Secretary General FICCI, and I request her to kindly make her welcome address.
Good morning, everybody. A very warm welcome to this morning's conference. A very important topic indeed. A very warm welcome to our chief guest, Mr. Anurag Thakur. Mrs. Birla, thank you for always being there with us to guide us in this process. Honorable Ambassador of Republic of Korea, Mr. Adya from Vodafone, Mr. Stemos from the International Labour's Organization. Ladies and gentlemen, CSR indeed is not a new concept, but it is this legislation, the new legislation, which seems to have really made CSR a buzzword, at least in the current context. Particularly for FICCI, we've been in it for a long while. Many of you would perhaps know that FICCI was actually founded on the call of Mahatma Gandhi to bring all the domestic industry, the Indian industry together to join them in the freedom movement. And at the very fourth AGM, when Mahatma Gandhi addressed, and here is the quote right behind you, where he said that industry should regard themselves as trustees and servants of the poor. So this is the ethos that we have followed, and this is what inspired us to really get into this field very early on, much before even the legislation or mandatory legislation of the CSR was ever thought of. It was way back in 1997 that FICCI had set up a Socio-Economic Development Foundation, and about early 2000s is when the Aditya Birla Group came up, and with them we set up this FICCI Aditya Birla Center. And we've been working a lot with both the corporates and the CSOs in terms of capacity building, in terms of identifying good work being done in this space. And it is from that perspective that we started the CSR Awards way back in 14 years back, where we've been recognizing the good work which is being done in partnership, the corporates and the NGO partnerships that have been there in the space. And now, of course, with new legislation, it's expected that about 20 to 30,000 crores per annum is expected to come into the field. I mean, this is just the beginning. Probably the next year would be the first year for us to really know what is the impact of the legislation, whether it actually converts into or not. But given that there is this kind of an expectation that is building up, there is a need to indeed channelize this money. Of course, a lot of work is being done. As I said, we also do these awards. We have groups like Aditya Birla doing absolutely fabulous work in this space for many, many years. Yet, I think if so many companies have to come into the fray, there is a need to channelize the effort. FICCI here would like to play a role of a facilitator. There are NGOs on one side who do wonderful work. They have understanding of the actual needs of the community. They're doing absolutely beautiful work in many spaces. On the other hand, you have the corporates willing to do it. They have the funding, but perhaps not exactly knowing which are the areas to get into, etc. So we could help them, actually handhold them right through, from the stage of project formulation to the implementation, getting them to meet the right partners, assess the program as we go along, help them monitor, evaluate. We have identified a couple of partners already. We can probably share those details. I think we'll be sharing some of the concept notes with you as we go along in the day. So this is where I think what we intend to do is to help you document these. There are some projects which are already existing, so we have been documenting some of them, make these a little more organized, help the companies conceptualize the new projects, undertake some of the feasibility studies. We could help submit the proposals from the corporate firms, and on the NGO side, help capacity build, help in kind of meeting the right partners on the other side, and create some kind of an aggregation effort, so that there is a meaningful impact on the ground of all of these. This is just a beginning. We'll be happy to get a feedback from all of you as to where you think the FICCI, role can actually fit in. We've been with Aditya Birla Center under Mrs. Birla's guidance. We've been doing a lot of work in terms of connecting the corporates and the NGOs, but this is, a way of doing it in a little more organized way. So with these words, thank you once again, and thank you all our guests here, and we look forward to some meaningful discussions during the day. I hand it over to now Mrs. Birla to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page, for your extremely warm welcome address and also for setting the tone for this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely pleased to have with us Mrs. Rajshri Birla, Chairperson, FICCI CSR and Community Development Committee. As Chairperson of the Aditya Birla Center for Community Initiatives and Rural Development, the apex body responsible for development projects. Mrs. Birla oversees the group's social and welfare work driven across 30 companies. In the last 10 years that she has been spearheading the activity, the Aditya Birla Group has enlarged its scope of activities based on the intensive assessment of the needs of the communities. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, may I now invite Mrs. Rajshri Birla to kindly give her special address.
Good morning, dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, I'm delighted to be with all of you this morning and share my thoughts on mobilizing CSR initiatives for maximum impact and some of the steps towards inclusive growth. I go back to the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's address on our 68th Independence Day. Spoken from the heart and the head, it was totally electrifying. Independence Day is an occasion to take a pledge for the welfare of all those who are downtrodden, poor, exploited, and oppressed, and to do something for them, averred Shri Modi, and the angst in his voice was palpable. He spoke with a fervor of a possessed social reformer and very closely established a connect with thousands of millions of our fellow countrymen, striking a chord in every Indian. The vision and relevance of the PM's speech is more pronounced in today's age when so many of us are committed to a new India. We despair over the fact that after nearly 7 decades of freedom, our country is not yet free from the yoke of poverty. Every government has been seized of the issue and in its own way has worked towards building a society that would be free of major inequalities and exploitation. Over these decades, many corporates, through their committed engagement, have labored hard to lift the burden of poverty from the lives of thousands. Together, in all sincerity, we think we have all made some difference. But there is much more to be done is beyond doubt. I believe to work holistically in this domain, whereby you try and make a difference to the lives of the underprivileged, you definitely need several partnerships, such as the NGOs in specialized fields, for instance, education, healthcare, water, sanitation, sustainable livelihood programs, and also importantly, the community for their sense of ownership and responsibility. The academia for research and audit, other influentials, the government, of course, in order to leverage the enormous development funds that they allocate, and finally, the corporates. Together as corporates, all of us then endeavor to texture the social development programs for the marginalized for the maximum impact, performance management, and accountability. And I'm going to come back to these thoughts in some time. Today, with the new company law, CSR having become an imperative, is indeed serious business. Incidentally, India is the only country in the world to have roped in corporates in this domain and to have made CSR mandatory. For us at the Aditya Birla Group, it was always so. Right from the start, my grandfather-in-law, Shri Ghanshyam Dasji Birla, who was a close confidant of Mahatma Gandhi, ingrained the trusteeship concept of management as explained by Mahatma Gandhi. While carrying forward this philosophy, my husband, Aditya ji, wove in the concept of sustainable livelihood aimed at making people self-reliant. And taking these practices forward, my son, Kumarmangalam Birla, has crystallized the three P's. As Kumarmangalam Awards, our thrust is on the three crucial dimensions of people, planet, and profit. Kumar Mangalam has raised the bar very high in this view. We must give our social projects the same kind of importance as we give to our business projects. So, just as for companies, we have a business vision, for our social projects, we have evolved a social vision. In a nutshell, it epitomizes inclusive growth and dignifying the lives of the underprivileged. So you identify very well with the philosophy of transcending business and reaching out to the underserved communities. While we do not turn business into a cause, we do social cause marketing. We turn it into a lever where the ROI or the return of investment comes from the transformation of people's lives, and which is what every organization espouses. And this is the need of the hour. As John Rockefeller said, and I quote, every thoughtful man must conceive that the purpose of industry is quite as much the advancement of social well being as the production of wealth. In the new CSR milieu, this thought will be embedded even further in every nook and cranny of the corporate landscape. Let me allude again to the Prime Minister's Independence Day speech, wherein he said, and I quote him, each of our MPs should make one village of his or her constituency a model village. This is particularly encouraging as to build the nation we have to secure the foundations of our villages. Gandhiji always said that India lives in its villages. We firmly believe that this is the way forward for maximizing the social impact of CSR projects. Very humbly, I would like to state that this was one of our path-breaking CSR initiatives in our group, begun more than a decade ago. We evolved a concept of model village, giving a definite shape. So, of the 3,000 villages in which we work, we thought of transforming 300 villages into model villages over time through the Aditya Birla Center for Community Initiatives and Rural Development, which I am privileged to spearhead. Kumar Mangalam, Shri Askaranji Agarwal, and Dr. Pragya Ram are on the board. Making of a model village entails ensuring self-reliance in all aspects with education, healthcare, and family welfare, infrastructure, agriculture, watershed management, and working towards sustainable livelihood patterns. Basically, in the villages which we adopted, more than 80% of the people were living below the poverty line. Our objective was to make a paradigm shift and over a 5-year time frame, lift 90% of those below the poverty line to above the poverty line. Our strategy to actualize our vision has been fivefold. It is premised primarily on people-centric development approaches geared towards sustainable development processes. To give you the flavor of our work, the processes involved, and more importantly, to help its replication, I believe sharing in-depth insights of our experience would be worthwhile. So let me begin with the steps and processes we follow. Firstly, our focus is on helping people become self-reliant through the engine of sustainable livelihood. This encompasses agriculture and watershed development and women empowerment processes through the setting up of self-help groups as well. Let me briefly walk you through just one aspect of the process, citing our experience in Uttar Pradesh. During the course of survey, we discovered that the villagers had to face innumerable problems. In the agricultural hinterland of these villages in Uttar Pradesh, most of the fields were parched as the water table was abysmally low. There were hardly any water, and the land was of an undulating nature as well. Besides this, there were problems of water runoff and topsoil erosion. Irrigation proved to be both cumbersome and complex, causing great misery to the farmers. We decided to resolve this issue in a holistic manner. We introduced a structured program of agriculture and watershed development. Our aim has been 1. To ensure the optimum use of land and water resources, 2. Raise the groundwater table through harnessing the available water resources, recharging the groundwater, and 3. Installing easy to operate appropriate water lifting technologies. To raise the performance level of the farmers and their farmlands through improved productivity, additionally, we conduct farmer training programs. Here, farmers are exposed to the best in class agriculture practices, actually using demonstration plots. To enable them to shore up their earnings, they are taught intercropping as well. To increase the productivity of the farm through the seed multiplication program, we encourage them to harvest cash crops and vegetables that can fetch them a better price. Likewise, helping procure milch cattle of the villages and backing them with marketing support by buying off most of the milk of for our own factory has helped lower the poverty baseline very significantly. Promoting multi-cropping so that the return on the investment of the farmers is enhanced forms part of the processes. Incidentally, in Odisha, Keonjhar district, over a 40-acre land spanning 8 villages, we fostered the triple layer vegetable cultivation based on the Machan system. At the underground level, we had the tuber crop. The second on ground, we helped cultivate vegetables, and the third level, which is 6 feet above the ground, we cultivated vegetables that are creepers like karela, pumpkin, etc. This has helped community immensely. Moving on to the second point, which is on sustainable livelihood, we began providing vocational training skills, again concentrating on closing the loop through employment linkages in at least 75% of the populace trained. Often we found that some of the trainees wanted to strike out on their own. They were interested in setting up small shops to offer their services and products. We thought this was a good way to encourage entrepreneurship. Thirdly, through sparking the desire for education, raising the literacy rates through pursuing 100% enrollment in schools with a zero dropout rate is an aspiration. Fourthly, our emphasis is on providing health care, which entails working towards zero infant mortality and zero maternal mortality rate. Of course, this is an audacious goal. If we keep it on the radar, then at least the mortality rate will fall to the desired level. And when we talk of healthcare, we must look at 100% institutional delivery and immunization. Alongside access to safe drinking water, prevention of disease borne out of water and unhygienic conditions, as well as ensuring proper sanitation facilities, form 3 critical planks in the healthcare domain. Fifthly, facilitating infrastructure, increasing green cover through tree plantation and social reform, we feel are an imperative. So this is also a part of our endeavor. Project audits are conducted to gauge how far we have traversed vis-a-vis the milestones. In all our projects, we work with related government departments, panchayat, and NGOs, and the community. Some of the NGOs who work with us in UP include BEF, NABARD, Habitat for Humanity International, Rotary International, to cite just a few. We find that such alignments help deliver the best results. A great example is that of India becoming polio-free country. For more than a decade, we in the Aditya Birla Group had been pursuing the polio eradication drive with missionary zeal. At over 15 plants in our group and in Mumbai, our CSR teams ensure that all children from the time of their birth up until the age of 5 are vaccinated. Over the last 5 years, we have helped vaccinate nearly 22 million children, managing 73,693 booths. Our teams operate at railway stations and other critical points as well to ensure that children are immunized. Consequent to our collective zeal, that of the Government of India, Rotary International, WHO, and our group, admirably backed by UNICEF, CDC, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, India was declared a polio-free country. This is a unique example of massive mobilization for social impact. Moving back to the topic of model villages, our overarching goal is to fundamentally make certain that the development in the village which we adopt reaches a stage wherein the village committee takes over the complete responsibility and our teams become dispensable. Today, some of our model villages in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, and Gujarat have won the President's Nirmal Gram Award. This pulling out of thousands of people out of their poverty, dignifying their life, is absolutely the greatest break for us. And this is an experiment worthy of implementation by all corporates. You can see the palpable difference in these villages and the people. We have witnessed how tens of thousands of villagers now seem self-assured, confident, and happy at being able to move towards a sustainable livelihood and a decent life. There is newfound dignity among them as they celebrate a new life. We could never have come so far if we did not have the backing of the government, the district authorities, the panchayats, and all the NGOs working with us, and the community supporting us to the hilt. I believe this collective zeal is the best example of mobilizing multiple stakeholders for maximum social impact. I would most earnestly appeal to you to follow the Model Village initiative. It is a holistic, integrated approach geared to better the lives of the underprivileged in the best possible manner. On this route, we can all aspire to see the India of our dreams come true, an India of inclusive growth, an India where every person realizes his or her optimal potential, an India where every human being lives a life of dignity, an India that can hold a head high in the hegemony of nations. And we must all present leaders and leaders in the making must work this talk with a sense of urgency. Together we can make this India's destiny. Let us astound ourselves by making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Birla, for your kind address, and it is indeed very heartening to know all the noble causes that you and your organization have been untiring working towards. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now request Mrs. Rajshri Birla to kindly present the book titled Collaborative Approach for CSR Project to our Chief Guest, Honorable Member of Parliament Shri Anurag Thakur, and may I request him to kindly release the same. Ladies and gentlemen, this book is an initiative by the CSR Department of FICCI. Along with the various essential literature on project management, this book throws light upon the various CSR projects and initiatives. 22 successful projects by various organizations in India have been highlighted as best practices and models to be followed, especially in the Indian context. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us His Excellency Mr. Jean Geoli, who is the Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to India. He has held many distinguished posts in various countries, including the Counselor of the Korean Embassy in Japan, Minister Counselor Korean Embassy in the People's Republic of China, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to New Zealand, to name a few. He was awarded the Order of Service Merit Red Stripes in the year 2003 in December. And with these words, I would like to request His Excellency to kindly give his special address.
Namaste. Very good morning, everyone. Mr. Anurag Thakur, Honorable Member of Parliament, Mrs. Rajashree Bila, Chairperson, FICCI, CSR and Community Development Committee, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to join you all here at the CSR conference, organized by FICCI in partnership with the Korean Embassy in New Delhi. FICCI has been at the forefront of sensitizing businesses on the CSR, and we in the Korean Embassy are very much proud to be an equal partner in this mission. We value our strong relationship with FICCI and appreciate its active cooperation in our efforts to strengthen Korea-India bilateral relations. As you are all aware, in recent years, businesses all over the world have started integrating CSR into their core business strategy and practices. At the same time, governments all over the world have also joined other stakeholders to promote and encourage enterprises to adopt CSR practices to contribute to society and the public good. If one looks into the rationale behind greater government involvement in the CSR, one would notice that the notions of sustainable development and inclusive growth have come to the fore of the development agenda, both nationally and internationally. And this has necessitated a meaningful cooperation between the governments and corporates. The CSR that we see today is integral to this cooperation. At the same time, corporate governance has also gone through a paradigm shift wherein progressive companies themselves have come to realize that CSR must be one of the core values of industry for both long-term as well as short-term successes. CSR is now the new corporate mantra for success. Companies no longer look at corporate responsibility as a cost imposed on the industry or a check on efficiency and profit maximization, but as an imperative for corporate success. Therefore, today, most companies around the world, including Korean companies, have adopted CSR as part of its main business strategy to build a trusting, long-term relationship with the society and the people. Ladies and gentlemen, Korean government is well aware of the value of CSR and is actively supporting Korean companies' initiatives for CSR so that they can enjoy trust and respect of the people across the globe. Since 2011, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea, in particular, has been supporting socially responsible activities of Korean companies that mostly do business in developing countries. Korean embassies in a number of countries, including India, have been encouraging and supporting CSR activities that suit the local environment. Such initiative of the government is part of the Korea's effort to strengthen the soft power of Korea and Korean companies. We in the embassy with partnership of the FICCI and sometime with CII have hosted 3 rounds of Korea-India CSR Forum thus far to raise awareness about CSR among Indian as well as a Korean business community and to learn from each other's experiences as also to know about best CSR practices. These forums have, indeed, helped to increase awareness of CSR in India and encouraged businesses to embed best CSR practices into their operations. I, as Ambassador of Korea, have been attaching great importance to CSR issues, considering our close bilateral relations with India. I have always emphasized the need for greater understanding of the local context and environment to ensure success of CSR activities. At the same time, the embassy is playing a bridging role between companies on the one hand and local governments on the other, so that they can forge effective, sustainable partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, in Korea, most Korean companies are actively engaged in CSR activities and publish their CSR reports on an annual basis. In particular, since 1997, Korean companies have become more conscious about their social obligation and have made the same an integral part of corporate responsibility. As of today, large Korean conglomerates voluntarily spend around 2% of their annual profits on CSR activities. They have separate CSR divisions and also publish their CSR reports every year, highlighting their CSR commitments, target, and achievement. A vast majority of Korean corporations have focused their CSR efforts on environmental issues and green technology projects, besides meeting their community obligations. Major Korean companies which are present in India are also known for their commitment to socially responsible business. For example, Samsung India, through its CSR initiative, is trying to improve the quality of education provided to underprivileged children in the country through the Samsung Smart School project. Under this initiative, several smart classes have been set up in government-run schools across the country, in which interactive learning environment is facilitated by Samsung products like the smartboard, laptops, and tablets. I recently heard that they will finish 200 smart classrooms by the end of this year. LG Electronics, also through its CSR activities, has been actively involved in providing social benefits to the disadvantaged sections of the society. The company has partnered with NGOs for their welfare and uplift of underprivileged street and slum children and older people by providing them services like education, healthcare, shelter, vocational training, and other rehabilitation benefits. Similarly, Hyundai Motor India Limited, through its commendable CSR activities in the areas of healthcare, education, and vocational training, environment, road safety, etc., is trying to make a difference in the lives of the Indian people. Just as Korean companies, several Indian companies are also CSR sensitive, and their CSR projects are benefiting millions of people. I'm pleased to note that a positive change has taken place in the CSR policy environment in India with the enactment of Companies Act 2013 and CSR rules framed thereunder. The new law makes it mandatory for high net worth Indian companies and foreign companies operating in India to spend 2% of their average net profit for the past 3 years on fulfilling their corporate social responsibilities. The law that came into effect from this April, I'm sure, will help further strengthen CSR programs of the companies in India. According to industry estimates, around 8,000 companies in India will fall into the ambit of the CSR provisions, and this would translate into an estimated CSR spend of $1.95 billion to $2.44 billion US annually. With higher economic growth and increase in companies' profits, this spending will further grow up. We can imagine how much of social and economic development this spending can generate every year. Not surprisingly, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for the corporates to contribute from the CSR fund to several of government's priority agenda. I'm pleased to note that Prime Minister Modi's appeal to corporate India has been met with remarkable responses. The CSR has the potential to change the face of social sector development in India. Taking this opportunity, I'd like to call upon all our companies to align CSR in their business strategy and contribute towards sustainable and inclusive development in India. Korea-India relations are in upswing, with frequent exchange of high-level visits, expanding trade and investment relations, and ever-growing cultural ties. We expect the Korean companies to assume much greater role in the future growth of our bilateral ties. Korean companies are keen to expand their business presence in India as the country under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Modi is redefining the economic policy environment. I visualize that in the years to come, Korean companies will be the key driver of Korea-India economic relations. And if these companies have the best CSR practices, it will help build trusting and enduring relations with the people of India, which in return will further strengthen our bilateral relations. I'm certain that CSR will constitute an important part of the further development of our bilateral relations. With these words, I once again thank Vicky for providing a platform to discuss this highly relevant topic. I do hope over the course of this day, the participants will deliberate on CSR-related issues and challenges and how the benefits of responsible CSR practices could accrue to all the stakeholders, the companies, the people, and of course, the bilateral relations between Korea and India. I wish the deliberation today all success. Thank you very much. Dhanawad.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your kind address, and we indeed look forward towards both the countries further working in unison to learn and share the best CSR practices. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Mr. Rohit Adya, Director, External Affairs, Vodafone India Limited. He brings with him over 3 decades of professional experience in varied sectors across telecom and media, consulting, and consumer durables. As executive board member of the senior leadership team at Vodafone India, Mr. Adya spearheads the external affairs function and oversees corporate communications, reputation and crisis management, manages corporate affairs and public policy, besides administering the corporate social responsibility and the Vodafone Foundation in India. He also plays a vital role in focusing on advocacy and education on various industry issues, including the electromagnetic field. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, I would like to now request Mr. Adya to kindly speak to us on the last mile connectivity challenges for India's social and economic development.
Good morning. Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Thakur, Chairperson FICCI CSR Committee, Mrs. Birla, Honorable Ambassador, Republic of Korea, and my fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here at this prestigious FICCI event on the conference of Mobilizing Impact through CSR. Starting with the Prime Minister's vision and his intent to create a digital India, and coming from the telecom industry, I will share my thoughts on how mobile telephony can connect, communicate, and empower India. I will briefly cover on 5 areas: mobile technology in India and its impact, digital divide between rural and urban India, the opportunity and the challenges in this area, the government's vision, and how Vodafone is traversing this journey in its initiatives and our commitment to the objective. In the last decade, mobile telephony has truly transformed the way people engage and interact. It has truly changed the livelihoods, the quality of life globally. With over 900 million mobile telephony subscribers in India, which is one of the largest and the fastest growing telecom markets in the world, second after China, there has been a key driver to comprehensive economic growth and social development. Let's look beyond the quantitative impact. The feeling of being constantly engaged and being empowered is the situation which is giving the ability to the consumers to do several things at the mere click as per his own convenience. The power to share and exchange information two-way, which makes the power of mobile truly astounding. The seamless connectivity and ease of availability have made mobile services the engine for accelerating inclusion and propagating of information across all sectors. And so, the developmental sector has too significantly benefited from the advances in both the mobile reach and in the technology, be it in the areas of education, empowerment, agriculture, health, financial inclusion, rural outreach, and the progress as enabled by mobile is unparalleled. The faster deployment and the upscaling of projects and instant information flow for real-time monitoring and requisite corrective interventions has consistently been connected, and even when not physically present, gives the power of accessing information to everybody. And these elements are critical while working on the grassroots level and in the remote locations. Today in India, we have approximately 73% of our population living in 6.4 lakh villages. And we have more than 50% of the population below 25 years of age. We truly have a digital divide which demarcates our rural India from the urban India. Broadly speaking, the urban and the rural India differs largely in the areas of infrastructure, poor network, education, and remote geographical locations amongst these parameters. So with this background, what is the opportunity which exists for us? There is a sizable population in the rural India which are going to be the first-time internet users. Secondly, most of them are in remote locations where human interface is also difficult. Mobile technology offers a solution on both the concerns through localized apps, voice, and data services. The last mile connectivity is the other challenge, which will be the next wave, as we have heard in the Prime Minister's vision statement, of the telecom story, which promises to be the transformative experience in rural India. And obviously, the need of the hour requires an inclusive approach towards rural India. And we need to map out a digital footprint for the last mile connectivity through telecom and mobile commerce. Telecom in India is also the lowest price in the world, and it fits the rural urbanization theme, and hence is ripe for further penetration and adoption. Communication is slated to be the fastest growing consumption category in India, including rural, as per McKinsey's latest report. And most of the rural India is likely to have the first experience of internet on mobiles. Today, 41% of internet access in India is estimated to be through the mobile internet. Now, the challenges which come are also a few. And the biggest challenge is what we face is the adequacy of the spectrum for the telecom operators. And it is very key for efficiently to serve the demand of the customers. The proliferation of smartphones, increasing consumption of data, and the need of more bandwidth for giving these experiences acute. Rural density, as I stated, is still at 41%, while the urban stays at about astounding growth of 147%, which is as per the latest TRI report. So encompassing the 6.4 lakh villages for us, which is almost 97% less than 5,000 people in each of the villages, logistics and costs to reach out this rural India is fairly complicated. So the cost of network in the low density and large geographies in terms of reaching out through CapEx and operational issues is a matter of concern. The cost of distribution and servicing to follow up on network coverage is another. And also, from the business point of view, the ARPUs in the rural market are 30 to 40% lower than what from the urban markets. So the only way for the rural network and the connectivity, which needs to work by reducing the infrastructure, CapEx and the OpEx costs drastically, is a job for the tower companies in India to collaborate and share infrastructure and to reduce costs of outreach and probably look at innovative areas of bringing solar technology to be alternative of diesel fuel. And in order to reach these critical mass, the government should invite public-private partnership options. Incentives should be given to the public and private players for improving infrastructure and extending the fiber network reach. From the government's vision, Digital India, a program to transform India into a digitally empowered society and knowledge economy, is a big step in this direction. The program weaves together a large number of ideas and thoughts in a single comprehensive vision, so that each of them as a part of a larger goal and each individual element stands on its own, but is also a part of the larger picture. The weaving together makes the mission transformative in totality. It will pull together many existing schemes which would be restructured and refocused and implemented in a synchronized manner. Coming to Vodafone's initiatives and its commitments in India, Vodafone operates in 35 countries across the world, and in every OpCo which it operates, it has a foundation which looks and invests on CSR, and it relentlessly drives innovative changes in the developmental world through mobile technology. We focus on 4 M's, which is women empowerment, mobile education, mobile health, and mobile agriculture. And in India, Vodafone has been working relentlessly in creating opportunities for building entrepreneurship for women in the retail business. Project Smriddhi is one example where women are engaged to become entrepreneurs. We have a very famous project called Lal Dukan, where the son of the soil in the rural market works as a distributor so that he adds value to increase penetration in the market at a return of investment, creating a low cost and a viable, scalable model for the business. M-Pesa, our financial inclusion product, is relentlessly working in increasing rural financial inclusion for the poor. And as announced by the Prime Minister yesterday in his program, we are also bringing in a partner from M-Pesa into this financial inclusion area. From our CSR world, on education, we have a very strong program where we are working currently with Pratham, where over 1,000 schools are covered in 5 states of India on course on science and maths. Women empowerment, where we are working towards educating and digitizing women panchayats on e-governance. Child education, where we are sending back over 50,000 girls back to school this year, and the list continues. The most important point for us in our business is what is good for society is good for business. And in Vodafone is a continuous, unending journey pivoted on that belief. By remaining true to this core and in thought and action, we will continue to create value for all our stakeholders and for ourselves in playing our due role in the nation building of a digitally connected India. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adya, for your address. You have elucidated on how the last mile connectivity can transform rural India, and also spoke about the various initiatives that your organization is working towards, various CSR initiatives for the people. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Ms. Taimos. She's the director of the international label organization Decent Work Support Team for South Asia, and also country office for India since July 2010. Prior to coming to India, she held the position as director of ILO country office for Sri Lanka and Maldives for almost 5 years. Her core competencies are in change management and organizational development processes, with a technical focus on fundamental principles and rights at work, employment promotion, and labor market institutions. With these words, I would like to now invite her, and I request her to kindly address us on the theme of the conference.
Thank you, and good morning, Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Thakur, Ms. Birla, the Chairperson of FICCI CSR and Community Development Committee, Honorable Ambassador of the Republic of Korea, Mr. Adya from Vodafone, and Ms. Djordjevic. Ladies and gentlemen, namaskar. Let me begin by commending FICCI for yet another important event with which the ILO is honored to be associated. Now, with the new act, the Indian Companies Act from 2013, which came into effect on the 1st of April this year, as you all know, companies here in India are busy trying to put structures and processes into place to be able to comply with the obligations under the Act. From an ILO perspective, the social responsibilities of businesses and their contribution to the decent work agenda is and has always been a central part of the ILO's efforts to promote economic and social progress. We believe that corporate social responsibility is one of the important ways in which enterprises affirm their principles and their values, both in their own internal processes and operations, and in their interaction with other actors, the immediate environment, and the communities surrounding where the enterprises are located. Now, with the spread of globalization, CSR became important around the world, as you know. CSR attracted the attention of the media. Consumer organizations increasingly demanded information on production, conditions and routes to market. And NGOs and trade unions approached companies with requests and demands regarding their commitment to society. And suppliers were and are increasingly being met with CSR engagement from their corporate customers. Lately, as we have now seen in India, governments have also discovered CSR as an area for policy making. Companies have risen to the challenge of meeting the requirements of stakeholders, whether corporate customers, consumers, or the communities, understanding how critical this is in relation to company reputation and brand protection, as well as fulfilling their desire to contribute in an ethical manner to the development of the country. While enterprises also increasingly are reflecting the principles that underpin human rights, international labor standards, environmental protection, and transparency in their CSR policies, the ILO considers CSR a voluntary initiative, notwithstanding that a number of countries are taking it a step further and making CSR mandatory. The ILO's global CSR program is embodied in a policy instrument, namely the Tripartite Declaration of Principles Concerning the Multinational Enterprises and Social Policy. It's also known as the MNE Declaration. It is the ILO's international guide on enterprises and their interaction with labor and social policy issues. It's a voluntary instrument to promote good practice by enterprises, and it's a practical instrument founded on ILO labor standards, which reflect good practice accepted internationally by employers, workers,